Attention, anyone who is ready to be the change that the world needs. So let me start by asking you, are there areas in your life where you feel helpless? Maybe only in some areas, maybe in all, you have a deeper craving for deeper meaning, deeper connections, and maybe, just maybe, you feel like something, anything needs to change. I want you to know that I see you and I set the intention to allow this to be a safe space for you to learn more about the most important person in your life, you. On the day you were born, your very first breath was a miracle. Unique in your design, the beginning of your story. You were born perfect, with only the ability to have your needs met. Life was so simple. You needed to feel connection and comfort in your times of discomfort. My background is in education. Up until almost a year ago, I would have told you that I was a teacher. It was in Ed Psych while completing my Bachelor of Education many moons ago that I first learned about Jean Piaget and his studies to determine what he would publish as the four stages of child development from the ages of 0 to 15. The first stage, known as the sensory motor stage, begins at birth until about 18 months. It is the stage where an average child learns to sit, crawl, stand, walk, and to feed themselves, among other things. It is the stage of transition from acting on the world to the beginning of mental activity, like that of going from baby babble to creating words. The second stage, from the ages of about 2 to 7, is known as the pre-operational stage. And as a parent, 4 times over, I remember all too well the angst of keeping my children out of harm's way during their toddler, preschool, and early school years. I can't remember how many times I would just into bed, exhausted from trying to reason with the unreasonable. Is anybody with me? If you've got small children in your life or have any experience, you know a temper tantrum is a temper tantrum. There's no calming them down. When my second oldest child, Michael, was in kindergarten and learning to read and write, he ended up with a goose egg, square in his forehead, during center time, except he gave that goose egg to himself. All because the consequences for not completing his homework the night before was that he would have to work on it and complete it before he got to go to center time. His solution, instead of working, was to bang his head repeatedly on his desk, which formed that bruise in the center of his head. And even he couldn't explain why he did it that way. He knew it was redundant. He knew he wasn't getting what he wanted, but clearly emphasized that you can't reason with this stage. They will do or they won't do. Am I right? So if you have children in your immediate environment, can you relate to this stage from your own experience? The craziness of the toddlers, the terrible twos, and let me be, excuse my language, fucking fours. Oh my goodness, right? Climbing and crawling and getting into things like finding things that you never even knew existed. Thank goodness that stage does end, but by then a child is in school, evolving out of their first experience as a family and learning to interact within a group. And during this third stage, the concrete operational development from about 7 to 11 years of age takes place. Seriously, my oldest son was his most entertaining during this stage. However, adults didn't quite enjoy his humor, didn't enjoy it, didn't necessarily get it. I taught at the same school, so this takes me back to a memory I have of being called out of my class to be told by the principal that she had, in fact, had to leave the school to go pick him up from the pool because while lined up to change for swim lessons, he launched himself in full uniform. Full uniform. Imagine it. Like, he wasn't even just in street scrubs. He was full uniform. It was a uniform school. He launched himself right into that pool, while the previous group was still in the pool, finishing their lessons. So, needless to say, I wish I could have laughed with him at that time. I imagine I was not very humorous, but I am so grateful that I can laugh at it now. From that stage, there's more. It's like an infomercial that just won't end, right? We're in parenthood and we're looking for things to keep us rational, keep us sane, to fix things, keep things going, right? There is more. Welcome to what we call the tween, preteen, early teen stage. Yup. There's no hiding the wrath of a child who has no understanding of the changes that begin at this stage. Physically, physiologically, mentally, and emotionally. Piaget found patterns in the ages of 12 to 15-year-olds and called this stage the formal operational stage, where children begin to develop systems for testing their theories, right? Sometimes, well, most of the time when we think about this, sitting in a classroom, they're given something to figure out, they figure it out, right? But let's be honest, they leave the school and they're figuring out other things that you might never have seen coming, right? They're trying to figure out their world, interact with their peers, right? So, not saying that they are any more reasonable than they were at the pre-operational stage when they were starting school. And while I don't have a science to back me up here, I saw similarities in both of these stages, preschool and the pre-early teen years, through my lived experience of having a teen and a preschooler at the same time, because by this time I had divorced my first husband, who I had 2 boys with, then met and married my now husband, and we went on to add 2 more boys to the equation. An age spread that I never consciously thought about until our youngest started kindergarten the very same year my oldest started grade 12. Mind blown. What? That's when reality really set in. Ay. Mom of boys, parent of boys, 4 boys, but the reality that one is just starting to embark into early adult years and the other one is still at home, very, very dependent on us. So, wait a minute. You might be asking yourself, so what? So what? What does this have to do with me? Maybe it's all blah, 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 and it sounds like the teacher in the Peanuts cartoons. Now I'm really dating myself. Whether or not you have children in your immediate environment, wait for it, because the common thread is so simple. The thread is you. It's you. You and I, you and your lived experiences as uniquely lived by you as mine are lived with me by me. All experiences are relevant no matter who we are. We're all human. We're all doing the best with what we've got. And ultimately, the older I get, I have had to come to terms with the fact that life isn't black and white. Life isn't one way or the other. Experiences are neither good nor bad. However, that's very hard to come to terms with. In many situations, it's definitely a work in progress for me. But knowing this, believing this, rewiring our own thought patterns with conscious care and attention to our inner world helps us see the impact that we have on our outer world. Our inner world is reflected back from our outer world. And it's in this prison of our ego that creates and keeps us from changing because of one thing: our patterned responses that are born from our past. And so Piaget's studies of child development, however, I didn't look in to see how outdated they were. my experience as a teacher finds that they are still relatable. I've taught pre-K to grade 12. I've raised 4 boys, as I've mentioned. However, there continues to be more and more neuroscience in brain development, and the likes of Dr. Joe Dispenza and R.J. Spina, just to name a few, right? There are so many studies out there about the effects that our ego has on our, Dr. Joe Dispenza calls it our personality, presents our personal reality, right? We can only live through an experience and see it for what experience we bring to it. So the next generation needs all of us to be well. Our children need healthy, full, and meaningful relationships with the adults in their lives so that they can grow into healthy, full, and meaningful versions of themselves. In Native studies, I became fascinated with the 7 generations perspective. So I taught this through social stays. I love social stays. Nobody else does. But I also went on to do workshops, of course, right? Professional growth and the like as we come into this age of reconciliation and learning from the past so that we socially can be better for the future. So coming back to the 7 generations perspective, it's something now, and I don't want to misinterpret it, so I'm just coming up with a simple analogy that kind of works for me. Take it for what it is. Again, it's an analogy that helps me visualize, kind of paint a picture of what the 7 generations perspective is like. So imagine throwing a pebble into a pond, right? Many of us have done this, skipping rocks, yada, 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 right? So we throw a pebble into the pond and immediately we can see the ripple effect projected outwards. And knowing that what we can see on the surface, we also have to use our imagination. We have to consider the possible effect below, right? So that pebble is also falling at the same time that the ripples are falling out, right? That pebble is us, right? So each one of us is our own pebble sending out ripples. And the bigger impact is that simple stone. It's not just what we see, but it's what's going on in behind and below. The effects of decisions made today have an impact on the future. The decisions I made as a parent in my 20s were very different than the decisions I made as a parent in my 30s, which make me a very different parent in my 40s and my 50s, right? And sit down with all 4 of my boys. They all have a perspective of memories growing up, and each one is unique to their own perspective, right? And to come from that place of not right or wrong, right? One can only tell its own truth. So when they're reflecting on a situation and a memory that maybe all 3 of us were in the midst of in that moment, both of them emotionally registered their own memory. And you can't argue right or wrong. Both of them truly believe that's their truth. Okay? And it's absolutely fascinating because in some of the updated science, in consciousness and awareness, it's about peeling back the layers of your own embellished memories. And so memories are held in a place with emotion. When we go back and we think about, do you ever find yourself having a conversation with a sibling or with a parent and you're like, no, that's not the way it was. Oh my goodness, I can't believe you remember it like that. Well, you both remember it the way you remember it. And because you can't go back to the past and change it, There are no facts, just perspectives, right? So we need healthy and well humans. We need more love. We need to be more love. We need the patience. We need the wisdom. We need the knowingness of our true selves. True self, real self, higher self, soul self, spirit. We need to be that more for us so that we can create that space for others to allow and not accept. And I'll get into that. That's a whole other. I love the fascination with the difference between allowance and acceptance. So, to finish up here, nature is perfect. Trees do not wish to be flowers. Seasons ebb and flow, and yet everything goes into slumber during the winter. Anything that survives a winter, right, only comes alive to be rejuvenated stronger each spring. Human beings have the divine ability to make decisions. We're the ones that can choose to change. We're the ones that leave our footprint. And I don't even want to get into, so this is not about the climate. And yet it is, because my rabbit hole, everything's connected. Everything's connected. So bringing it back to the simplicity of the fact that we have the divine miracle to decide. We have the frontal lobe. After the age of 25, and interesting enough, the frontal lobe, the reasoning center in situations such as dementia and Alzheimer's, are being shown to be the first ones to leave, to lose capacity to evolve. And so I think it is in everybody's highest good. We need to be mastering our minds, masters over our thoughts and beliefs and emotions, and live deeper in our truer heart center. The world needs us to be in our hearts. So, human beings have the divine ability to make decisions, to make choices, to resist or to adapt, to force or to flow. Ultimately, we are all the sums of all of our decisions. Right here, right now, we are the sum of our decisions. You, me, everyone, everywhere. Around the world, this is universal. We are the sum of all of our decisions. So if you are ready to flip your script, I invite you to like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone and everyone who needs to hear it. I welcome you to the journey of a lifetime, to join the revolution. Welcome to my paradigm revolution. Gracias. Merci. Thank you. Namaste.